I played my first round of golf on the 27th of June 2023. 2 years on, I've played, practiced, read, listened to, and learned a lot. If I could rewind, what would I do differently? What would I change? What different paths or choices would I make that could have made me a better, or indeed just a happier golfer? Well, the obvious thing to say is just knowing then everything I know now, but that's a bit of a cop-out, like saying if you had a wish, you'd ask for 3 more wishes.
And ixnay on the wishing for more wishes.
I'm talking about things that I could actually have done differently at the time that would have made a difference, things that I could have implemented then and there that would have helped me, or that might help any other golfers out there who are just getting started in the game. The first item on lists like these is typically just get lessons, but that wouldn't really have been possible for me, seeing as this whole enterprise started with an unexpected golf lesson and grew from there. The mistake I made was twofold. I only had half a dozen lessons or so before I stopped, and I went with the coach at the local club without even stopping to look elsewhere. Now, the coach at the local club was about 60 seconds away from where I lived, so that was understandable. But looking back, I would counsel 2023 Joel, and indeed any other golfers out there, to do a bit more due diligence before you pick and stick with a golf coach. You do need to commit if you're going to see meaningful results from your lessons, but you shouldn't just blindly go with the first coach that you meet. Just like you wouldn't marry the first person you swipe right on Tinder. Is it right or left that you swipe? You shouldn't just commit to the first coach you meet without seeing what else is out there. You need to scout around, try different coaches, and find the one that you most resonate with before you settle down. A knock-on effect of finding a golf coach I could have bought into and stuck with for the long term might have been that I could have avoided going from YouTube guru to YouTube guru looking for the next quick swing fix, but maybe that's just a rite of passage that all us golfers have to go through. Now, kit is one of the things I love about golf. I am a sucker for watching new driver reviews, looking at all the shiny new iron releases, eyeing up the latest line of Scotty Cameron putters or Vokey wedges. All of that is to me one of the things that I really enjoy about the game of golf and having it as a pursuit and a hobby. And I genuinely think that's fine and something that can be healthily enjoyed about the sport.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
But it did lead me to being something of a commitment phobe in the early part of my golf life, and it resulted ultimately in quite a lot of wasted time and money. Now, I did get fitted relatively early on, but only for a set of irons, and I've now learned that that is probably the least important part of the bag to get bespoke. It should have come after everything else. What I'd do differently if I could start over would be to get a full bag fitting pretty much as soon as I knew I was committing to the game for the long term, and then pretty much take a look but don't touch approach with any other clubs for at least the next 1 to 2 years. And speaking of which, it's probably about time that I got my driver looked at, and I still haven't been for a wedge or putter fitting after all this time. I still remember watching a foreplay golf video with Scott Fawcett of Decade and him talking about how club yardages overlap and how one club choice would overlay a much bigger portion of the green than another, and so that was obviously the club to be taken in this specific scenario. It was the first time I realized what course strategy actually was and how crucial it can be to playing a good round of golf. Since then, I've delved a lot more, not just into Decade, but also some other resources as well. Shout out to John Sherman's 4 Foundations of Golf, and also Lou Stagner's work on the stats side of things. And while I'm still a long way away from being able to put the ball where I want at any given moment, at least my targets now make a lot more sense. Related to this is learning how far I hit my clubs. Now, in defense of me 2 years ago, I did actually realize that this was something that was important, and I did try to figure out those distances. I just went about it slightly the wrong way. Instead of coming somewhere like this and getting on a launch monitor or booking a gapping session with a PGA professional, I went to a top tracer range and used the data from that, which I've since come to realize is fairly inaccurate and led me to miss-club myself for quite a long time. It was only when I was having lessons and a coach was trying to manipulate me into positions in my backswing that I simply couldn't achieve that I started to realize that my mobility was, let's say, suboptimal for playing good golf. Years of resistance training with no mobility or stretching practice had, shockingly enough, led me to being a little bit stiff, and in particular, my shoulders and hips just didn't have the range of motion that they needed. And to be honest, they still don't quite, but I am now doing a regular mobility practice throughout the weeks, and things have improved significantly in just a few months, and hopefully will continue to do so more into the future. On which note, do check out my video on golf mobility, what my routine currently looks like, and the effects that it has had already. Now, this is the biggest, easier said than done of the bunch, but it's also probably the most important. I wouldn't change my level of enthusiasm or the extent to which I threw myself into trying to get better and practicing and wanting to progress my golf game in the early days. However, I went through so many cycles of panic and despair after, be it a bad range session, a bad round, or just a few days or weeks where nothing seemed to be going right. And don't get me wrong, I still have plenty of poor practice sessions or poor rounds, and it's not to say that those things are pleasurable, but I no longer go quite into as much of a tailspin thinking that I've broken my golf game or that I've completely lost it or that I need to start again from the ground up. Golf improvement is a very gradual process, and it is absolutely not a linear one, and that is something that I wish I had properly realized earlier on. And on the flip side, it is worth not getting carried away when things are going well just because you've shot your new record low or just because you are in good form, because as we all know, golf has an incredible knack of kicking you in the teeth just when you think you've got it licked. It might seem a bit flippant, but I genuinely wish I had. Not just because it would have been good hashtag content to have documented my journey from the start, but because it has actually been a seriously rewarding process to put myself out there on YouTube and connect with viewers and like-minded golfers who are in a similar situation. Don't get me wrong, it's not always easy, it's sometimes stressful, and it is a lot of work, but the feedback and the support has been amazing, and frankly, I just wish I'd done it 18 months earlier than I ended up doing so that I was further along in this journey. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and the look back. Do let me know in the comments what you wish you had known when you were starting golf, or what you would go back and change if you could, and I will see you in the next one.